racing clutches, same 6 shoe. I'll split the shoes in half. An SS clutch has 6 shoes, so there's 6 pressure points to the drum. To increase the pressure points to the drum from 6 to 9, that's a 50% increase. Same drive plate, I'll put the shoe that's not cut here over the hole, and then I'll take my cut shoes. I'll just cut these shoes on a bandsaw, that's what I use. But I want to make sure, as you look at it, these are both the same size. I tell people when they're going to cut their shoes, you can cut a brand new shoe, but you cannot cut a used shoe. A brand new shoe, it's cuttable with a jigsaw, a sawzall, or a bandsaw. Very easy to cut. So what I'm looking for, and what I also tell people to do, before you cut the shoe in half, because if you can't cut them perfectly in half, because I use a fixture to do it, mark an A on one side and an A on the other side. So you keep them together as a match set. So once they're cut, all I'm looking for is I have 2 sides that have the radius on them. After I cut them, I'll take them on a belt sander and just kiss them lightly to take off the little snap where it breaks through. And I also just turn and rotate it 4 times on the belt sander to put a slight radius so I don't have a sharp edge going out to the drum. So once I've got the 2 sides or 2 pieces together, I'm just putting them in there. I'm looking for match sets. There's 2. So now I've got 9 shoes in this clutch, so I've got 9 pressure points of the drum. Getting the spring in there is very easy because the shoes are now smaller and there's not going to be as much tension on the spring. So again, I can put it in the middle and it goes in very easy. It stays in there. So that tells you you can cut some links out of the spring to bring up the engagement. So
do you sell different engagement springs?
Yes, I do.
So the customer doesn't have to do that, he can just order different engagement springs.
He can order this and not even have to cut the shoes, because we've got 6 springs that go in the SS clutch. And the black spring is our strongest spring, and that'll bring the engagement to 3,000 RPM. 3,000 is typical for all of the clone engines, be it Briggs & Stratton engine or the Honda clone, the Raptor engine. The engines that they race with are now torque engines versus the Briggs & Stratton flathead used to be an RPM engine. You wanted the clutch to engage in excess of 4,000 RPM. Today's racing engine, you want it to engage between 3,000 and 3,200 because it's torquey, it's not an RPM screamer. When we started off, if it had a black spring in there, it would have been a 3,000 engagement. Some people say, oh, I'd like to bring it up to 3,200, 3,400. I've done a lot of work to the engine. It can take it. So I said, okay, if you want 3,400, this is a green spring. You can tell by the color, of course. One end is missing. The typical spring is 9 inches, 100 thousandths long. That is what all of our springs are. A saw cut going through here is about 70 thousandths is the width of the blade. The spring on this one, it's 72 thousandths is what the wire diameter is. So I could cut 3 loops out of the spring and get it back together again without asking God for help. You cut any more any more loops out of that, you better have God as your partner because you're not going to be able to get it back in there. The end you cut off on the spring is always the closed end. I want the open end to remain. So when I pinch out the other end, it's going to be a closed end that I'm going to go in there and just pinch it out like that. There it is. It's closed, and it was easy to pinch out, and I didn't mark. So now I can put this spring together, put it in here, and that engagement, well, this is a green spring. This is a 2,500 engagement on this spring. Now with that, I don't know how many loops. I'll go see how short it is compared to a typical spring. Well, here's a typical spring. it's the same length. So I'm going to cut out, going back to the side I just did, I'm going to cut out 2 loops. The loop that I bent out and where I just cut it. Again, now I'm just going to bend this one. There's the bend in it. It's completely closed loop. It's now shorter than this one, so I know the engagement is going to go up. But the nice thing about it is, because I didn't cut more than 3 loops off this spring, I can get it back together again without cursing too much. So again, I'm putting it in there. I've got it down. Dust cover's going over it. And I should have that snap ring there. It came up, so start again. Once one comes out of there, you're not going to be able to force it down. So start all over again, get it where your spring is completely in the shoes, put it over, pull your hand out, and I did. So now it's just a matter of slapping it together. You can see that the shoes are shorter because now they're inside that dust cover. This one, they're even with it because I've shortened the shoes by cutting them. Now we'll see where the engagement is on this.
Go ahead and flip that over real quick, Jim. So if you got a max torque clutch, it's going to say max torque on it.
One of the Chinese boys also puts max torque on it.
I need to see about that.
It is the 8 serrations that nobody does. These 8 serrations are what distinguishes a max torque clutch. If they don't have those 8 serrations, it isn't max torque. So that is your telltale sign. People will advertise them as a max torque clutch, but they're not. And the number there doesn't mean anything to anybody except us. The number is just the year I stamped that plate. It gives me an approximate age of that clutch. So when somebody sends me a clutch, I can look at that year. The numbers get bigger and bigger because we used a 1/8 number in 1998. 2008, it was 3/16, and today they're a 1/4 inch. All right, now I'm going to take this clutch, and a typical green spring would be coming in at 2,500 RPM. I've cut 3 loops out of this spring. Let's see where it's coming in at. Historically, we used to put them on a gasoline engine, have a band brake around it, and that's how we'd test the clutch and see it. We'd have 2 tachometers. One's a backup for the other one to make sure you're getting a good reading. But the gasoline engine, the fumes, the noise. So I redesigned that. Now we have an electric engine, electric motor, much more accurate. Those tachometers tell by 25,000 or 50,000. This tells by 1 RPM. So putting this on, all I'm doing, the key's built into the shaft. I'm just going to slide that on, drum and sprocket.
So what happens if you don't put that drum on there and you spin it?
Well, there's going to be a shoe in that wall and that wall. That's just because we got people here. Normally I don't put on this washer because I don't need it. And I'll turn that down. I'm at 1,000 RPM, nothing's happening. Even on a gasoline engine, the wheels will start spinning if you take the wheels off the ground. There's no pressure. You will be able to hear the shoes as they start to go out. I'm at 1,900 RPM. It still is not ticking. 2,300 RPM, not ticking. 2,600, not. Now you can hear it. The shoes are ticking against the drum. I can stop. I'll go up another 100 RPM. And there's no way I can stop that. It's turning as one piece of steel. So going back down, 25, 2,600, she's starting to tick, but not enough to grab. Give it another 100 RPM. She's gone, turning as one piece of steel now. and we have a backup tack here to verify what that tack's doing. This one's at 2,800 RPM, that one's at 2,808. So, and this does it in tens, and this does by one. So my son does the belt drives. Pfeiffer Industries is my son. When I do
the same building?
He's on the other end of it.
That's what I thought. Okay.
When I have two cycle engines and I want an engagement above 7,000, 8,000, all I have to do is switch this gear with this one, and that will give me my 8,000, 8 to 10,000 RPM. Because this one I can get up to 5,000 RPM is what I can get this up to. When I put this pulley on it, I've doubled it. And I don't want any of my clutches coming in higher than 7,000 RPM because all my clutches are dry clutches. An oil bath clutch like a Hartmann, I can put a Hartmann on here because Hartmann is the exact same size as a Max Torque. And as a matter of fact, so is the Hillard, the same size as a Max Torque. We both use a 4-inch ID inside diameter of the drum. And anything you can do to take weight out of a clutch improves the efficiency when you're racing. So this clutch doesn't have to exceed and go over the dry plate the way it does. The way I stamp it, it will. It's just stamped and drawn down on the die. That's how it is. It doesn't have to be that long. The snowmobile people use this drum as their brake, just like some of the mini bike people. It's the dumbest type of brake system you can have, but the simple reason is you want to keep the clutch as cold as possible. It'll be more efficient. So having a brake band around the clutch doesn't make any sense at all. And so if the chain breaks, the only thing you're stopping is the clutch. You're not stopping a mini bike that's using a brake band around the drum of the clutch, because once that chain breaks, you stop the drum, but you're not stopping that rear wheel. That was, when mini bikes did that, it was a poor design. And then
it was easier.
And it was easier, it was cheaper, you already had something there. This one I'm leaving here because I don't need the high engagement to go back there, so I'm leaving that out. This drum has been cut down. It's exactly to the length of the Dustin. This is what again, you're trying to take out weight out of a racing clutch. This gentleman's daughters were the track champion. After the season was over with, he gave me his winning clutch. That is taking a lot of weight out.
And then your back plate as well.
And,
dry plate, I think.
Yeah, the dry plate. And what's amazing on this isn't hardened. This is. How the heck he drilled all those holes to take all that weight out is amazing. But where there's a will, there's a way. And all they have to do, I mean, even in the hub, he drilled them in the hub. He drilled them in here. This man was I would not have put the holes in here, but he even turned this drum down himself because, again, it was so thin. But that's all it has to be. It just has to be able to cover the drive plate.
Every little bit helps.
Yep.
Huge thanks to Max Torque Clutches for allowing us to come in their facility and film, and also a huge thanks to Go Power Sports for hooking the whole adventure up. Make sure to check the links in the video's description where you can find yourself a Max Torque clutch. They're high quality and American made, and it's nice to be able to support an American ran company. Thank you guys for watching. We love you, and God bless.